Uh-oh. Welcome, Home and Podcast fans and Home Improvement fans. Today, we are here to talk about our very favorite appearances by some of the guest stars from the 90s TV show. Adam and I have covered about 7 of the episodes now on our podcast, so we thought it would be an appropriate time to recap some of our favorite appearances. Adam, you have your own list. I have my own list. We did not share ahead of time, so we might have some crossover here.
I would expect it.
You would expect it. But I have a feeling, Adam, that some of the names on this list might shock our viewers. So,
I think people are going to be shocked by this one way or another.
One way or another. So make sure to stay tuned for all of the names on the list. But before we get started, we want to make sure that you like this video and subscribe to our channel. We're going to be doing hopefully more home improvement fun like this. So do that now before we get started. And as we do that, we can roll into it. Adam, do you want to list your very first entrant on this list of best home improvement guest stars?
Yeah, let's start with the big one. Give me Rodney Dangerfield, Thanksgiving. Oh. That's season 7, episode 9. It's Rodney being Rodney. He's playing himself.
Yep.
Taylor's having a nice suite at the Silver Dome, so you get a little Detroit Lions action. I'd been waiting for the episode to come in our podcast run for a long time. It came, and it's basically, once Rodney comes into the episode, it's about 15 minutes of Rodney just doing his stand-up bits, and they're kind of working an episode around it. It's really good stuff, very satisfying.
Yeah, he made it on my list as well. Both big Dangerfield fans. I know that you heard in the podcast today, maybe not as big of a Dangerfield fan as you are, but I think he does his thing there. I'm glad they didn't make him play like a character, you know?
Yeah, that would have been dumb. Just like it's Rodney Dangerfield to stand up. I don't want to see like Rodney Dangerfield like the marketing guy or something. Like let Rodney run.
And they do. And that episode in general, they have like the lions and everything going on there. So there's just a lot of fun stuff happening. But definitely on my list, a good entrant on yours. First guy I wrote down, and maybe if we were doing like an order of things, you would have been like number 1. Based on the way that you and I have talked about this episode in hindsight.
All right, yeah.
This is one of our very first episodes from season 1, For Whom the Belch Tolls. We have Chris McDonald as Stu Cutler. So Chris plays a former college roommate of Tim's, learns that Tim has moved on from, I guess you could call them like frat boy years. I'm not sure.
Partying days, I guess.
Yeah. And Chris plays, I think he does a really good job of playing like the still kind of college kid who's an adult, but also like the somber moments, they hit him pretty hard, and brings out a good performance from Tim in that episode. And I think both of us earlier on, we didn't remember this episode, and it was a different tone than we have seen as like the family kind of comedy type thing. So yeah, a really good episode and really good performance by Chris McDonald.
Yeah, just for context, Chris McDonald's Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore. He's in a lot of things, but that's sort of the name recognition. So agree. Great episode. Really overqualified for that role. I feel like he's just a really good actor in a role that wouldn't necessarily be that memorable if not for him. All right, next one for me. We're talking about Detroit Lions earlier. Let's talk a little bit about the Detroit Pistons, specifically Isaiah Thomas.
He's on my list too. So
okay, a lot of crossover. I had to sort of look up to remember why he was in the episode, but I remember now. It's a circumstance where Mark is writing letters to Isaiah Thomas, and Brad and Randy kind of prank him in return and put some silly things in a letter that they actually wrote. And then I think that Tim and Jill sort of take advantage of the situation. But there's a joke throughout that Isaiah Thomas really likes Karn. And we don't see Isaiah, he's just kind of mentioned. But then at the very end of the episode, the last scene, which on Home Improvement is often not the best scene in the episode. Usually it's where they put the table scraps. But we get a scene where Isaiah is sitting like at a desk or something, and his mom comes in and says, like, Isaiah, the corn's ready. Yeah. It's pretty stupid, and to describe it, I'm probably not doing it justice, but when we saw it, I was about as surprised as I've ever been watching Home Improvement. Yeah,
it's funny that you said you didn't really remember the context, because I did not either, but it is very absurd, and to get like a Hall of Fame basketball player on the show relatively early on, pretty surprising. So he doesn't have to do a lot in that scene, but you know what? Isaiah did a great job. and they have a lot of athletes on the show. So I guess I should transition to one of the athletes I have.
Okay.
This is from season 1. I have George Foreman in Unchained Malady, and I think this, for my money, is probably the best performance by an athlete that they have on the show. I know they have a ton. They've got Grant Hill and Payne Stewart and all the racers that come on, and whether or not, you and I have haggled over if astronauts are athletes or not. But Ken Bowersox, he's on there.
Yeah.
So George Foreman, as actors go, I think he has a pretty good delivery. He maybe has more experience in some of the commercials that he's done. But there's some boxing jokes. There's some jokes about being superstitious. There's not like a lot there, but I just found him to be like enjoyable versus some of these other ones where they're really cringeworthy and we feel bad for these athletes coming on the show.
Yeah, he definitely had charisma on screen. He did not make my list. I did like the performance, and you see him in Home Improvement. He would go on to make those grill commercials, and he kind of cut his chops on Home Improvement. So
that's the reason why
stepping stone.
That's the reason why the grill, really took off.
Yeah,
I think
it took off. All right, next one for me. This one I doubt you'll have. It's Alan Jackson in When Harry Kept Dolores. It's a season 5 episode. Much like Rodney being Rodney, this is the start of an episode. I don't remember what happens in the rest of it, but basically it's Tool time, and we just get an Alan Jackson concert. He comes out and sings the Mercury Blues, and it's the whole song, and it's really good. I didn't know I liked Alan Jackson a ton until I saw this episode, and he has some jokes and has to deliver some dialogue, and it's a little bit of like mush mouth. I can't really tell what he's saying, or the jokes don't land. But man, you get him in front of that microphone, and he's a real songbird. I really liked it. Yeah,
I saw you put your phone up. You said you put your phone up, and you were like in the crowd.
Yeah, I did the light thing.
Yeah. I remember you really liking that. I'm not a giant country fan myself, so I didn't necessarily love it, but it was something different. So
yeah, I didn't know I was a big country fan either until I saw Alan Jackson on Home Improvement. It kind of changed everything. So.
All right. Well, you're still learning about yourself at your nice old age. Last one on my list, and then I have a couple of honorable mentions, but these guys almost aren't even guest stars, honestly, at this point. I don't know if they were on like 10 plus episodes or whatever, but the K&B boys, who I think were they on the like second episode or third episode? I forget. But you got Dwayne, Rock, and Pete, and they're just a bundle of fun. They all have their personalities, and there's a little bit of bickering back and forth, but they bring a lot of energy to the show every time they're there. I would say maybe 3 out of 4 times they're really, really good when they're there, and maybe 1 time not so much. But
it's never their fault when they're not good, though.
No, and we see them spilling over not just on Tool Time, but into Tim's life, like at the Super Bowl one.
Yeah. Or like when his kid, it's Drake Bell as a kid.
Yeah. So all that kind of stuff. But yeah, K&B boys doesn't get better than that, does it?
No, I agree. So this is my last one. It's a little bit of a cheat, but give me Dave Chapelle and Jim Brewer.
Twofer.
A twofer. They're in the episode Talk to Me, and they're just a couple of young Detroit dudes taking an episode of Tool Time, and they get called down, and they sort of talk about their issues in their relationships, and they're funny. Dave Chappelle's like, you kind of see the seedlings of a real popular, real talented Dave Chapelle, and they're both really funny, and the episode itself is pretty good. But this is also noteworthy because they spun this off. These guys were so good in the moment, they spun it off into a different ABC show done by the same producers as the Home Improvement guys.
Buddies, right?
Yeah, Buddies, which didn't take off, obviously, because when you think of Dave Chapelle, you don't think of Buddies necessarily. So,
necessarily.
But it's just cool to see Dave Chapelle pop up on Home Improvement. So.
Yeah, it was a surprise. A good one. So some of my honorable mentions, we don't have to go into all their performances and stuff, but I wrote down Dukes of Hazzard legend Tom Wopat.
Yeah.
Polly Holliday and Bonnie Bartlett both play the moms to Jill and Tim in the series. All good performances. Could have easily made the list, but they did not this time around.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would also like to shout out Janine Garofalo and Funny Valentine. That's a good appearance. Another person kind of coming in before they were quite as popular as they would get. And then Jack Elam and Ernest Borgnine. I don't remember the episode that they're in. I know it's like
Birds of a Feather Flock to Taylor.
Yes, of course. Birds of a Feather Flock to Taylor. That's something only a true home improvement podcaster would know. That's a good one. They come down and they're just it's sort of like the Jim Brewer, Dave Chapelle thing. They come down and sort of just talk about their lot in life, and it's good stuff. So yeah.
It was sentimental, surprisingly sentimental, I think.
It's the best home improvement stuff, sentimental. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, that's our list. You guys got to let us know who we forgot or who your favorite guest star is. So make sure to tell us in the comments section below. And don't forget to like our video and subscribe to the channel. And we will see you next time.
See you next time. Sorry, Bauer sucks.